Welcome to my show. My name is Marcell Johnson, and this is the Freedom Experience.
I love that intro every time. What's poppin', y'all? So welcome back to the Freedom Experience. As you know, I'm Marcell Johnson. Today, man, I got somebody with me who is incredible. I love everything about her. I love everything that she does. I'm going to just give y'all the title. You know I always do that, but her name is Sierra Lomax. So if you haven't heard of her, get on it. Okay, so she's a writer. She's a digital designer, an artist, and a soul speaker. I love that soul speaker because it goes deeper than just the physical. It touches your soul. I love that. So I wanted to ask you a lot of questions, man. I got a lot to uncover.
Ready.
I got a lot to talk to you about.
Ask away.
Okay, so let's go. First of all, how you doing today?
I'm good. Today's
Are
a
you?
good day.
Today's a good day.
Today's a good day.
So first of all, thank you for coming on the show because I know you're busy, you're working, you're doing a ton of different stuff, but the fact you took time to be on the show, I appreciate it. And you're a part of the Freedom Experience now. So that's forever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, turn up. Okay, so what sparked the interest in all that you do? Because you do a lot. Like, she has a book out, everything.
Yeah.
Like, you do so much. What is your inspiration? What sparks those interests?
Well, I would say what sparks the interest is I was like 14, started writing just because I didn't really have an outlet and I'm not the best at expressing myself.
Right.
So I started writing like poetry and I would write when I was mad. It really started as being mad. Really, like if I would get into it with like a little boyfriend or something, I would start writing.
Here we go.
And so, but then I started to use it in ways where I could talk about like what was really hurting me or what was affecting me. And then also just to like be silly and express myself too. And I started sketching too, like just randomly. And like, you see my room when I was there.
Like
so I had
artists
stuff
like
everywhere.
drawing and
Yeah, so I didn't know that was like the foundation for the things that I was going to do when I got older. I just was like, okay, I write sometimes. I wouldn't tell anybody. I started writing poetry. Nobody knew.
Keeping it a secret.
Yeah, no one knew until like, I want to say my sophomore year of college that I wrote poetry. Yeah.
Wow, that's holding it in for a long time.
A long time. I just didn't tell anyone. So I did a open mic and read one of my poems. Like I got a poetry coach. Like I was so serious. I wanted to make sure
Poetry coach?
Yes.
See, this is what I'm saying, y'all. Like, if you write poetry and you got a poetry coach, you're serious.
Like I don't even know if that's like a real title. I just started calling her that. But she she definitely helped me with like understanding my feelings because I'm not the best at doing that.
Right.
So I did this poem. It was called Invisible. Great poem. I don't know where
Give us a piece of it.
I don't remember it.
Some of it.
I just don't. Like, I don't know why.
What was the premises of it?
Well, the premise was, like feeling invisible throughout my childhood. Like I was in foster care and I came back with my biological family and you kind of don't know where you fit in, right? So you think that, okay, this was my family and then now I'm back with this other family and, who do I belong to? So, and then you go up in school and you're like, no one notices me. But of course, it's like, I'm the quiet person. So who's going to notice you if you're making it a thing for you to not be noticed?
Yeah,
but still, you still feel like invisible.
Yeah.
And so, but I do remember at the end of the poem, it was like me taking back my power and saying, but I'm not though.
Let's go.
So,
I love that.
Yeah, that was just like the foundation for everything.
And something that you said, which was amazing, was when you were a kid, you started that. Something that I've been telling y'all on here, man, is that when you're a kid, that's kind of when your purpose is revealed to you.
Yeah.
You kind of, if you're in your adult life or anything, even if you're a teenager or old, whatever, whenever you're like, what am I here for? What is my purpose? First of all, your purpose is to be loved by God and to be able to have in relationship and be in communion with Him first.
Right.
But like, what is my passion? What are my gifts? Right. They're always hidden in your childhood. Yep. And it's so crazy because your childhood is like trauma. Right. But then the purpose is connected. Right. And if you can look past the trauma and see, but what was I interested in? What thrived me? Like, what got me started? I always tell you that's where you'll find it at. So you were speaking about foster care. Yeah. So I kind of knew a little bit about that, but tell us how that happened and how you got into foster care and how that still affects you.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I'm actually walking this out like as we speak.
You had a therapy session today.
Yeah,
like,
so this is like real, like,
yeah.
I was on my podcast telling people, like, I just came from therapy, girl, and, like, my life is messed up. So
she
I'm
was
going to
running
keep it real.
a little bit late because she had therapy, but she prioritized her mental health first. That's good.
Okay. So I was in foster care from 5 months old until about 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
So my mom, I'm the youngest of three. So
Right.
my mom was in her drug addiction, and I don't really know like the full details, but I know, we were taken away, and we were
Right.
officially, we were first placed with my grandmother.
Okay.
But my grandma was older. She couldn't take care of all of us, especially a
Yeah,
newborn.
right.
So, I mean, I guess no one else in my family at the time had the resources or the time or whatever to take me. So I
Right.
went into the system, unfortunately. The blessing in it is that I was placed with only one family.
Okay.
A lot of people bounce around like their
Yeah.
whole,
I used to work for like foster care stuff, and I would have to
Mm-hmm.
supervise visits. And some of the times I would be like, these people are probably better off in their dysfunctional family than in a family that they're placed with. But you didn't have that experience?
I didn't have that experience. I mean, every family has dysfunction.
Yeah,
They're not perfect.
exactly.
Like my foster family was not perfect at all. But
Right.
I was placed in a God-loving, family. Like my foster mom is a reverend herself.
God always had his hand
Yeah,
over
like
you.
her spiritual mother is
See?
a reverend as well, a pastor. So everyone, like my uncle was a bishop. Like
Wow.
everybody connected to her loved God, and so that was really important to my foundation as well. So
Right.
of course, when I came back to live with my mom, my family, they're Christians too. Of course, life hit them. That's fine, but
Right.
I grew up in church my entire life. So I feel like God's always had his hand on me, and I've noticed that because as soon as I was about to get adopted
Right.
by my foster family, my mom came back, and she was sober and she was clean. And now my mom's been like clean for like 23 years or so.
Wow, that's beautiful.
yeah.
But do you feel like, because see, when you're in foster care, you deal with abandonment and
Yeah.
rejection. So how do you feel like that? Like if somebody was watching and they were in foster care, they're still
Yeah.
dealing with those emotions, what would you tell them or some tips to help them overcome that abandonment?
I would say that, I mean, people are gonna hurt you. God never abandoned you though. And I think that's the thing. And I never knew that I had abandonment issues until I was like much, much older, because to me, I always knew who my mother was.
Right.
Because I just knew, like, we still visited my mom, like when she, was in her programs and things like that. So
Right.
I always knew, but it wasn't until I got older and I'm like, dang, like I really don't like when people leave me. I didn't
Wow.
realize that. But you start to realize that God's always there. And that
Come
sounds
on.
so corny, but honestly,
it's
like
real.
when you realize that God sticks closer to you, like, and he sticks to you like a brother. I mean,
Closer.
like closer than a brother.
Come on.
So it's just like, it's a process. I'm not saying that you
That's
just wake
right.
up and be like, God is by my side.
That's
no.
right.
But like, I definitely, I think just prayer and just forgiving people and understanding that they abandoned you, but God didn't. And usually
right.
they were dealing with something in their lives that God had to work out through, with them too. So it's not personal. I think sometimes it's just sometimes that happens.
But to answer the question, she answered it, which is that when you're dealing with those abandonment issues, always realize that God is there.
Right.
Because if God's there and he can't leave you, then you're always safe. You're always covered. And that's really how I live my life.
Right.
Like no matter who's in it, who's not in it, if God is there, I'm covered. I'm
Right.
good. I'm content with that.
Exactly.
So that's the answer to that question. But I wanted to also speak about what it was like getting back into relationship with your mom, because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't talk to their mom or their dads
Yeah.
right now. They're mad about that, about being left or abused or
Yeah.
whatever. How do you restore that relationship, and what was your process in restoring the relationship?
Yeah, so it was a lot of anger. I was
Yeah,
very,
see?
very, very mad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think with a lot of families and like mainly Black families too, they don't talk about nothing.
No
okay?
therapy, nothing. Like
nothing.
What stay in this house, what happens in this house
Stays in this house. Like I came back. I remember the day I came back to live with my mom. I was
Right.
6. It was raining. I had like literally black garbage bags are like the luggage for
Wow.
abandoned youth. So
Come on.
all
Black
of my stuff was in the garbage
Facts.
bags. And I pull up and I remember walking into the house and I'm just like, what? Like, and it sounds like a sad story, but like I really was like angry. Like I know my mom, but I don't know this environment. So now I have to learn a new environment.
Wow.
And I have to adjust to these people who are my family, but they're not my family, right?
Right.
At the same time. So there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of resentment. A lot of me saying, I want to go back to my foster care, home and things like that. So there's a lot of resentment on my part and then my mom's part, because then she's like, well, I'm your mother and that wasn't, your mother. Like, so now
Ooh,
you're having
that battle.
yeah, there's
That
this battle of
a
being like,
secret, unseen battle.
yes, or just
Yeah.
it comes out in arguments where
Yup.
you're mad about something, simple that your mom said, and then you're like, oh, she would never do that. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So it's a lot of anger, and if you don't talk about it, it builds and it builds and it builds.
Wow. So basically communicating with family. If you have a disagreement or you have some unforgiveness, really sitting down and working through those problems and choosing to be reconciled.
Right.
You have to make a choice to be
You
like,
do.
I want a relationship with you. If you don't, walk away, trust God. But
Right.
normally if you walk away, you're only hurting yourself and holding on
Right.
to that. So it's better to just work through those issues. So get connected with your family and the people you don't forgive,
Right.
the people you're having issues with. So back to your purpose. So
Yeah.
you've been through a lot, and I'm sure a lot of those things still show up in your relationships today.
Yeah.
How does that like, because I know you're in purpose, but I want to stay on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Your issues, the abandonment, the
Yeah.
rejection in your relationships, whether it's friends, whether it's, a spouse or,
Right.
romantic. How does those things show up?
So it shows up in me always wanting to leave. Like I always like
Like bad, like,
yeah,
it's
I'm always
over.
like I don't trust it. So I'm like I'm going to leave before I get left. Like that's what I do. It's bad. I'm working on I've
Hold
told this
on.
person that.
I'm going to leave before I get
Yes.
left.
Yes.
Intentional preventive thinking.
Intentional. Like it's intentional. Like I literally will be like, and I'll remember like situations in my past that I didn't leave when I felt like God wanted me to.
Right.
So when I see the same thing happening again,
Right.
I just will go ghost
Okay.
without an explanation. And like I feel like it's a way to guard myself, but also I can be better at.
Sometimes it's not the right thing.
It's not the right thing.
Right.
It's really not.
So stick around a little bit longer. Be still and know that I am God.
Yeah, but
A
I
little
mean,
bit
sometimes
longer.
you can dip.
Sometimes you gotta
Sometimes
dip.
you can go.
Sometimes you gotta dip.
But I
Sometimes
think
it's
that
over.
you have to communicate that with that person that like this is what's
Ooh.
happening to me. I won't communicate. I'll just say, all right, we're done and I don't care and it is what it
Deuces.
is. Yeah. And then later I'm like, this is exactly why I felt this way. And they're like,
Wow.
why didn't you just say that? You're pushing me
Right.
away. And
You
I'm
could-
just
it's
like,
you could have talked about it.
right.
Wow.
But I think what the abandonment issues thing and just rejection for me is like talking about my feelings doesn't get received well. So to
Right.
me, I was like, well, if I don't say anything, I get to stay happy. I used to
Right.
think that. Like when I say things or express how I feel, people get upset because they hate the truth or they don't like what I'm saying. So if I don't say anything, everybody stays happy. I'll stay happy.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm killing myself,
Come on.
inside because I want, people to like me or
Right.
people to stay near me. And I'm like, but I don't really like them because they're hurting me this whole time too.
And that's something that you have to stop and do some introspective work and think about.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you about insecurities and
Yeah.
confidence because she's very confident to the point she projects that onto everybody else. But me, I'm really confident too. However,
He's
I
really confident.
not that confident. But at the end of the day, I think there's a balance between humility and confidence, real
Yeah.
confidence. Because if you're egotistic and
Absolutely.
stuff, it's really insecurities, it's overdressed insecurities.
Yes.
But when you're confident and you're humble, that's real confidence.
Yeah.
And I think even a confident person still deals with insecurities.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with yours?
So I deal with mine by Beyonce. I mean, like, I just feel like you have to listen to Beyonce if you want to feel great. And then also, I mean,
Beyonce,
yeah.
okay, because she gives you life, she gives you
she
confidence.
gives you life. She makes
Okay.
like, I mean, like, honestly, like, of course, I don't look like her. Nobody looks like her. There's only one
Right.
her. But just understanding your own light and your confidence, and then of course God too. Like Beyonce,
Right.
God.
Okay, so you turn on your music to get you get you in your bag, and then you pray about it, and then you wanna wave.
And then you affirm yourself, and then music helps too. Like I feel like for me, music is like part of my therapy in a sense too.
That's
but
right.
I definitely
music is a ministry.
it is. It really is. Worship music. I mean, jazz, blues, like
Even
anything.
other music too. Like,
Yeah.
all music
All
to me
types.
says a way of speaking to you.
Absolutely.
Majority of the time.
So that's how I do. And then also just affirmations. I mean, like I have like sticky
Come
notes
on.
all around my house.
Give me a few of them.
Okay, so I have one where it says that, hello, queen, you're doing great.
Come on.
I have another one that says, forgive your mother.
Hold on. I want you to talk to the people and
Okay.
tell them.
Okay.
Like, say your affirmation to them.
Okay, I will. Okay, so hello, queen.
Hey, King.
You're doing great. Don't give up. Forgive your mother for the times that she let her hurt manifest into yours. You will prevail. You're amazing. You are a light in a dark place. Like you can just say all these things that
Come on.
talk to yourself like you're your best friend. You know how you hype your best friend up?
Yep.
You ain't gonna let nobody say nothing shady about your best friend.
You hype them up.
You should be your own best friend. You should talk about, like, I will say to myself, like, Sierra deserves this, as if I'm talking about someone else. Because for some reason, we love on other people better than we love ourselves. And I need to love myself just as much as I love somebody.
Hey, yo, she's speaking. This is life. This is the whole reason why I do this show.
Yeah.
Because I need people like you that speaks life to speak it and let it transcend to everybody who sees it.
Yeah, I mean, we need it.
And you're speaking life to me, to yourself, to the people. Yeah. That's beautiful, man. This is why she's confident. And that's how you deal with your insecurities.
Yeah.
And your insecurities help you to feel more confident, or your confidence helps you to tap into your purpose.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about that. What keeps you consistent in your purpose to be able to achieve these goals?
Yeah. So I think I always like knew I was gonna be somebody, and I never knew what that meant.
Come on.
But I used to just always be like, okay, like no matter what I do, I'm gonna be great at it. I'm gonna do something, and I felt like every time I did something, I executed. Like I don't know. If something doesn't work out, I don't take it like this personal thing. I'm like, no. I thank God for the opportunity. And I'm like, okay, well.
Moving right along.
Move around.
Happily hop along.
Rework the plan. Like, don't be afraid to rework your plan.
Come on.
Like for me, I could have, like, I just graduated maybe like a year ago, and I could have quit school.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I could have quit school, but I kept reworking the plan because I thought I was gonna go get my 4-year degree,
be done, and get a bag and be done.
Get a bag. It's over. I literally transferred schools like 3 times. Right. I changed my major twice. Wow. I took 2 semesters off. Like
that's me.
Working, things like that. Yep. So it's just like, what helps me stay consistent is knowing that there's things that I know that God promised me that I'm still going to get. I didn't get it yet.
The
I
promise.
Have to keep going.
It's like whenever you have this relationship with God and He gives you the vision and the promise, it's up to you to hold on to it.
Yes.
I'm actually living in the promise. The freedom experience is a part of the promise.
Yeah.
So I'm walking in a new level of freedom. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I'm so thankful that you're here. I'm so thankful that we're living on our purpose. Mm-hmm. And I want my audience, I want you guys, the viewers, to stand up and get your purpose because they can do it.
Yeah, you really can.
You could do it.
You really can.
You really could do it. So I know one thing that you talk about is your desire for generational wealth.
Yeah.
Tell me some more about this.
So I'm like, within the past couple of years, I've been having conversations with different people about generational wealth. And this guy I was dating was all big about legacy and stuff. So, you start like talking like them and thinking about stuff with them. So, but anyway, they really did help me understand that legacy is so important, but generational wealth isn't just about money. It's about your mentality.
That's true.
And your mental health, and that going to therapy and breaking generational curses and just getting to know yourself more. I feel like because I'm doing things and finding out things about myself that my mom probably never
even thought about,
or that my grandmother never thought about, or I'm realizing, like, I'll say things in conversation with them and they're like, huh? And I'm like, you don't know about that? Like, just certain things about myself as a woman that I'm learning that they probably never thought
tapped into.
You know
what I think that is, especially whenever you're African American and you have this stereotypical mindset, which is almost like survival. Like Black people weren't allowed to really thrive. So their expectations were so low. And I always say this, just a quick testimony, how I was thankful for my dad and my family because I've had like Caucasian, like I have white people in my family, my grandma, and then I have my father who is Black, but he always had me traveling and doing a lot of stuff. So I was exposed to a lot.
Right.
So it changed my expectations. So take your kids out, let them see the world, show them different things on the internet, because it changes what they can see. Because I think when your mom and your grandma aren't able to relate or get it, it's because their exposure.
Right.
You're exposed to so much more. So you have a different mentality.
Yeah.
So expose your kids and expose yourself to more stuff so you can elevate. But I also wanted to say that I love that promise. What keeps you consistent, sticking to the promise. I love that.
Yeah.
And so whenever it comes to the difficulties, because when you're trying to manifest something, there's always pushback.
Yeah.
What helps you fight through that? I know holding on to the promise, but in those minutes of crying and sad and heavy, what do you do?
So in those moments, I literally realized that there's something inside of me that God wants to reveal. Like I have to go through a certain situation in order to find something out about myself, and then also find something out about God, something about Him that I never knew, a character, trait of His that I've never experienced before. And I'm going through that right now, like where I'm literally like waking up and I'm reading and I'm crying and I'm praying and I'm like, what's going on, but I'm realizing that I'm experiencing God in a way that I never had before.
I think that's what God does. He always lets you get to know him on a new level.
Yeah.
And that's why it says we go from glory to glory to glory, because we keep transforming until we look like him.
Yeah.
He's like trying to perfect us.
Yeah.
And he's using all these different obstacles to perfect us. And we're crying and getting back up. So it's a beautiful relationship and process of transformation.
Right.
But I wanted to say, can you say what you do, like as far as your podcast, your writing, like say everything that you do.
Okay.
I just need them to hear it.
The rundown.
Give the rundown.
Okay, so most recently, I am a published co-author of the book Realities of Black Women.
Come on, get into the book,
I brought
man.
it. You know, I got to do the branding.
Hold that book up. Let them see that.
You see it?
Yeah, come on.
Okay, so it was a collaboration between me and 9 other Black women.
I love that.
And we're just sharing like stories of trial, triumph, how we beat the odds, and there's some statistics in there as well, like talking about like the Black equity for Black women in Pittsburgh. How it's like one of the worst places for Black women to live in the country.
So many people's been saying that to me about Pittsburgh. But go ahead, what else?
Yeah, so I just recently did that. I started CC Touché Designs, where I basically am doing like logo designs and newsletters and flyers and ebook covers. So I started that in April.
Creativity.
And then I also have my Etsy store where I'll do digital prints as well. And I sell those on there. So I just have like multiple like side hustles, but now I'm like transitioning to finding like a new job. So literally in the past like 2 weeks, I've had like 2 interviews for different positions.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah. So I'm like moving forward. I'm elevating in that sense. And
that's
then
that's right.
Also, I just signed up to be like a tutor for
Man,
yeah, so I can't sit still. Like I have to do things. Like I just feel like I'm very productive, and I feel like I like to do things that are creative, and that keeps you going. Right. There's so many older people that have stopped doing things, and that's why they
deplete.
Exactly, and they lie dormant because they're not doing anything. And then
something.
Exactly. And my aunt, my favorite aunt, passed away in July of this year. Okay. And she was like multifaceted. I mean, like she did so many different things. Like she did wedding decor, and she baked cakes, and she just did all these things, and she was a deaconess, and so
storing up her rewards.
Exactly. And I was like, I want to be like that. And I've always wanted to be like her when I was younger. So I was like, I want to have my obituary filled with all these things that I've done and all these people that I've touched. And then to see that I gave God the glory in it all. So I think it's important to go fill up the earth. Do what he told us to do.
Yeah, go be fruitful and multiply. Yeah. Everybody thinks that means sex and having kids. Right. No, be fruitful in everything you do.
Yours.
Multiply. The road is yours.
Rule over the...
Have dominion over the world. I feel like, too, that a lot of times people don't realize that they have access to everything around them, and God will, all you have to do is kind of show up, and then God will provide it. Yeah. It's like if you think it and you want it, you don't have to wait for somebody to give it. Yeah. Like, step up and go after, and then God will keep like, oh, okay, another step, here it is. Another step, here you go. It's like he's your stepping stone. Yeah. He keeps putting another step under you so you can keep going.
There's freedom where we're so scared. And I remember a mentor of mine told me that if we actually understood the amount of freedom that God actually gives us, it's actually scary to understand.
Because it's like free will. Yeah. And we don't operate in it because we're under like a systematic mindset of limitation. Mm-hmm. But we're taking the limits off. Yeah. We're walking through transformation.
The limit doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
We're walking in transformation.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, whenever we call you a soul speaker, talk a little bit about that. So I think that kind of like came about from me in my podcast, basically. Right. So I have a podcast, a self-love experiment. It's streaming on Anchor and Spotify and Google Podcasts. That's hard. So it's season 1 and season 2. And I started it honestly because like I just be going through stuff and I'll be having nobody to talk to. Like I don't like to talk to a lot of people about my issues. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I'm pretty sure people can like relate to what I have to say. And honestly, again, I feel like things always happen in my life that push me. So a breakup happened. And so I was betrayal. I wanted to get into that. Mm-hmm. Talk about your betrayal really quickly. Yeah. So it wasn't a betrayal in like a romantic way, but this year has been really hard for me. I'm facing currently dealing with a betrayal that I wouldn't wish this on nobody. No one. I mean, haven't we all dealt with it? Yeah. It's like it came as a shock. I'm literally in the middle of my work day. I get a threat to my phone. Like, how do you finish working during when someone tells you to end your life?
But the thing is, in the text message, it was literally things that I had been, like, negative self-talk that I'd been thinking about. And I knew that it was nothing but the enemy, because it was saying, like, oh, I've been saying, like, oh, I'm ready for new beginnings. I'm ready for new things with my life. And the person said, your life is pointless. I was like, that's nothing but the enemy, because why would you know? How would you know to say that? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like dealing with that, and then also realizing that there's no truth in that. Those are baseless claims. I know who I am. But then also the human side of knowing that that's hurtful and that you have to walk that out. So, I mean, I share things like that on my podcast about this is what I'm going through right now, and this is how I'm getting through it.
She keeps it so real on her podcast. And I love the fact that you talk about those things, because betrayal is real. It is. But I love the fact that you see past the physical. You were able to say, that's not even him. That's the enemy using him to get to me. And that's the thing. Sometimes we argue with people, we fight, we even ruin relationships because we don't realize that the enemy is the one who used you, me, everyone to be able to do different things to try to distort what's really the truth. But she was able to see past that into truth. So think about that. Like, get that perspective when you're dealing with people. See past the physical and see the spirit behind them that's possessing them to do that. But I wanted to say, man, so you're so wise.
Thank you.
You have all the juice. She has all the sauce. Like, if you have any questions, like, she's somebody you can go to and ask anything, and she's going to be able to give you some type of insight about it. But I always like to end the show with words of wisdom. So give me some of your words of wisdom.
So some of my words of wisdom would be that you are loved. You deserve healthy love from everyone attached to you.
What is healthy love?
Healthy love is like everything, the opposite of toxic. We all know what toxic is, right? So the opposite of everything that is toxic, do the opposite. So for time's sake. But then also realize that, I mean, you're the one. And I think we also say, like, oh, you're worthy, and like, but also like own that, like, you're worthy. And not even that. Sometimes we're unworthy, right? Or unqualified, but God still calls you to be qualified. You know, like, there's nothing that can really disqualify you. And like we said earlier, like, the limit does not exist.
There is no limit.
That's a Mean Girls line where she's like, the limit doesn't exist. No, in real life, like with God, the limit does not exist. So
so basically, she gave you so many affirmations. Replay this, rewatch this, because there's so many gems in here that you can just lose if you just skim through it. And I feel like, how can people find you? Because people need to be able to find you.
So you can find me on Instagram. It's CC Touché, _ CC Touché. And then I'm not on Facebook currently, but if you did want to look me up, it's the same name on there as well.
How do you spell Touché? Because I wouldn't know
it's TASHAY.
And how do you spell CC?
SI. Yeah, I'm the SIERRA Sierra.
Okay,
so,
I was like, because some people be CS, so whenever I always tell people, so it's SI.
Touché.
Spell that.
TASHAY.
There you go. So I wanted y'all to have no excuse for following her and, you know what I mean, getting attached to her.
Yeah, because I follow back.
She's a blessing, and she follows back. So, you know, I always like to, and first of all, check out my merch. So this says Gods, right? So I got merch that says Gods. It says, I got other ones that say freedom and say predestined. So I want to stick to those three. Like, this means you're Gods. You know what I mean? So the enemy gets away from you because you belong to God. You have a special anointing over you because you're God's. Then I like predestined, because no matter what you feel like is happening in your life, you're always predestined for greatness, regardless. And then my last one is freedom, because like we just talked about, God gives you limitless freedom to do whatever you want, whether that's good or bad. So choose good, choose life. And I like to end my show every time with my words of wisdom, which is, it's time to find God. It's time, or hold on. It's time to find freedom. It's time.
Find God.
Find God. It's time to find freedom. It's time to find God. Let's go. Peace. Love y'all.
The Freedom Experience.